They said he was finished. They said the crashes had broken more than just bones. They said Marc Marquez, the 8-time world champion who once seemed invincible, would never be the same rider who terrorized MotoGP from 2013 to 2019. They were wrong, spectacularly, historically, undeniably wrong. 2025 isn't just Marc Marquez's comeback season, it's the greatest resurrection in motorsport history. With 11 Grand Prix victories, 14 sprint wins, and a staggering 512 championship points through 16 rounds, the Spanish gladiator hasn't just returned to form. He's transcended it. This is the story of how Marc Marquez conquered death, defied medicine, and delivered the most spectacular comeback that professional sport has ever seen. Part 1. The Fall from Grace. July 19th, 2020, at the Jerez circuit in Spain, a date that changed everything. A high-side crash at turn 3 that seemed routine by Marc's standards became the beginning of a medical nightmare that would consume the next 4 years of his life. The right humerus fracture should have been straightforward. 6 to 8 weeks recovery, return stronger than ever. Instead, it became a journey through medical hell that would test not just Marc's physical limits, but his very identity as a human being. Multiple surgeries, bone infections, nerve damage, vision problems. There were moments when simply lifting his arm became an achievement worth celebrating. The rider who once made 300 horsepower missiles dance like ballet performances couldn't handle the weight of a coffee cup. There were days when I thought about everything except racing, Marc would later admit. Days when getting dressed was a victory. Days when I wondered if I would ever feel normal again, let alone fast. The 2021, 2022, and 2023 seasons became exercises in frustration and gradual adaptation. Flashes of the old magic mixed with heartbreaking crashes and mechanical retirements. The paddock whispered that maybe the greatest rider of his generation had lost that final tenth of a second that separates champions from also-rans. Part 2. The Gresini Gamble. The decision to leave Honda after 11 years wasn't just career change. It was an admission that his old approach wasn't working. The RC213V, once an extension of Marc's will, had become an enemy he could no longer tame. Gresini Racing offered something Honda couldn't: a fresh start with year-old Ducati machinery. The GP23, while not cutting edge, was predictable, forgiving, and most importantly, fun to ride again. 2024 became his rehabilitation season. The podiums returned. The confidence slowly rebuilt. That magical weekend in Aragon, where he ended his 1,043-day victory drought with back-to-back wins, reminded everyone that reports of Marc Marquez's death had been greatly exaggerated. When Ducati offered him factory machinery for 2025, the partnership announcement sent shockwaves through the paddock. After years of adaptation and compromise, Marc would finally have championship-winning machinery again. Part 3. The Perfect Storm. Early 2025. Dominance. The 2025 season opener in Qatar provided the first glimpse of what was coming. Marc didn't just win. He dominated with a margin that left commentators searching for superlatives. The rider who once made Honda dance had found his perfect partner in the Ducati GP25. Thailand brought victory number 2 and a moment that revealed Marc's evolved character. His entire €306,000 winning bonus was donated to a Thai orphanage, with Marc stating, "Winning is amazing, but giving is even better." I've been lucky in life, and I want to share that with kids who haven't had the same opportunities. Argentina, Qatar, and beyond, the victories kept coming with a frequency that began to feel inevitable. Mark and his brother Alex shared the top 2 positions in sprint races through the first 10 rounds, creating a Spanish stranglehold on MotoGP that hadn't been seen since the sport's early days. This wasn't just about winning races. Mark's racecraft had evolved beyond his pre-injury style, where once he relied on supernatural reflexes and aggressive overtaking, now he combined that natural speed with strategic thinking that came from years of fighting adversity. At Mugello, he achieved his 100th career pole position, a milestone that seemed impossible during those dark recovery years. Each victory wasn't just a race win, it was a statement that Marc Marquez 2.0 was somehow superior to the rider who had dominated the late 2000s. Part 4. Record-breaking dominance. The Austrian Grand Prix weekend epitomized Marc's 2025 dominance. His sprint victory ended a victory drought at the Red Bull Ring and extended his championship lead to 123 points over brother Alex. But more importantly, it demonstrated the comprehensive nature of his superiority. Marc wasn't just fast on Sundays, he was untouchable on Saturdays too. His 14 sprint victories through 16 rounds represented a conversion rate that defied statistical probability. In a format designed to add unpredictability to MGPT, Marc had somehow made it predictable again. The numbers from his 2025 campaign read like a statistical fever dream. 11 Grand Prix victories from 16 races, 14 sprint race wins from 16 attempts, 512 championship points with rounds still remaining, victory margins averaging over 4 seconds, pole positions, fastest laps, and podium finishes that rewrote record books. To put this in perspective, Marc's 2019 season, previously considered his masterpiece, saw him score 250 points. In 2025, with the expanded sprint format, he was approaching 85% of all available points. "I've reconnected with the rider I was before the injury," Marc explained. But that understated the truth. This wasn't reconnection. This was evolution. The rider who once relied on pushing beyond mechanical limits had learned to extract maximum performance through precision rather than aggression. Part 5. The mathematics of greatness. By September, the championship math had become academic. Marc's 512 points represented the highest total in MotoGP history, and with races still remaining, he was on pace to shatter every meaningful record in the sport's premier class. The Japanese Grand Prix at Motegi loomed as his earliest possible championship clinching opportunity. Never before had Marc sealed a title with more than 3 rounds to spare. But 2025 was rewriting all precedents. His dominance had become so complete that second place in the championship, held by brother Alex, seemed as distant from Marc as Marc was from the midfield runners. The 123-point gap represented not just statistical superiority, but a quantum leap in performance. "We're witnessing something that may never be repeated," admitted Valentino Rossi. "This isn't just winning a championship. This is redefining what championship winning looks like." His competitors weren't just being outpaced, they were being outthought, outprepared, and systematically demoralized by a rider who had learned to combine his natural gifts with hard-earned wisdom. Closing. The legend secured. As the 2025 season approaches its conclusion with Marc mathematically certain to clinch his 7th MotoGP championship, the magnitude of his achievement becomes clear. This isn't just another title. It's the greatest individual performance in motorcycle racing history. The boy from Cervera, who once seemed destined for early retirement, has instead delivered the most dominant championship campaign the sport has ever witnessed. His projected points total will surpass every previous record. His victory rate approaches mathematical impossibility. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect isn't the victories or records. It's the inspiration it provides to anyone facing seemingly insurmountable adversity. 4 years ago, doctors weren't sure if Marc would regain full use of his right arm. Today, he's using that same arm to steer his way to immortality. Marc Marquez hasn't just returned to MotoGP, he's transcended it. The greatest comeback in motorsport history is also the greatest championship campaign in MGPT history. From broken bones to broken records, from medical uncertainty to mathematical certainty, from career-ending injury to history-making resurrection. The Ant of Cervera has become the giant of the sport. Welcome to the Marc Marquez era 2.0, where the impossible became inevitable and legends learned to fly again.